Hello everybody, Weegee here, and welcome to my first non-Ruby video in a while. So a couple weeks ago, Nintendo had a direct, and they announced and showed a trailer for a new Fire Emblem Warriors game set in the universe of Fire Emblem 3 Warriors, called Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hopes. When I first saw this trailer, my first thought was, oh, this is how we're going to get that Fire Emblem Fates middle path, a 5th timeline where they all team up. Today I'm going to be talking about how I think that's going to happen, why I think this is a 5th timeline, and why it's not directly connected to the other 4 timelines. Let's start with why I think this is a different timeline, which brings me to this screenshot right here where we have an older Edelgard, but this isn't the 5 years later wartime Edelgard. Note the lack of those ridiculous horns. So we can eliminate the idea that this takes place during the end of any of the 3 houses' routes. But Edelgard is still clearly older than her student self, by 2 to 3 years. We also get these 2 shots of Claude and Dimitri, who are also older, but not quite in their wartime designs. So this means that this takes place between the timelines. But why does any of this make me think this is a different path? After all, it could just be a game to connect the pre- and post-time skip eras. Well, our first clue is in the text in the Edelgard section, talking about capturing Garreg Mach. This is interesting because in the timeline of the game, Edelgard successfully conquers Garreg Mach as a student, meaning that in this timeline she likely failed in her invasion, being driven back by the other classes and the Knights of Saros. The fact that they are at war means that she still attempted that siege though. So this game takes place 2 to 3 years after the start of the war, but not in the same timeline as the second half of the game. This timeline splitting off at the siege of Garreg Mach. We also get a small clip of Dragon Rhea spitting fire. This is likely a small part of a cutscene of the failed invasion of Garreg Mach. This also means that Byleth never disappears for 5 years, and she is one of the keys to getting these students to listen to each other and stop fighting. There's another key factor that we will get into in a second. So now that we've established why this is a different timeline, let's delve into how this 5th path will play out. First, we need to establish a reason for the groups to team up. After all, each of them are pretty stubborn, especially Edelgard, and it doesn't seem like they'll just stop fighting because Byleth said so. Though the image of Byleth pulling out her tired teacher voice and using the Sword of Prayer like a ruler to beat some sense into her students is hilarious. The reason for them having to team up will be an outside force. And no, I'm not talking about those who slither in the dark, though I'm sure they will show up. It's this guy, who we see at the end of the trailer that attacks Byleth. Who is he? Well, while there isn't a lot to go off, I believe he is somebody like Byleth. What do I mean by that? Somebody connected to a god. In the box art for the game, we see Byleth and this figure clashing, with Sothis above Byleth and an unknown figure above the purple-haired dude. So why do I think it's a god like Sothis? Well, in this trailer we get a short fight between the two. In the fight we see enlightened Byleth glowing with Sothis' energy. As the fight turns in the other guy's favor, he too is shrouded in a similar glow, except it's purple. Then we get a close-up of his face, and we see that he bears the same white marks that the other figure bears in the cover. He also wields a hero's relic, which we learn in the Golden Deer route are weapons made from the remains of Sothis' and Rhea's people. So that means the figure above him is likely related to Sothis in some way. And this weapon comes from his remains, much like the Sword of the Creator was made from the bones of Sothis. But one person isn't enough reason for the 3 armies to team up. They could likely deal with him separately. He's going to need an army of his own, like, I don't know, maybe those who slither in the dark. That's why I believe that this guy will team up with those who slither in the dark to be the force that forces Byleth to help bring the houses together, to combat a bigger threat. Hell, maybe this kid's the descendant of the King of Liberation. Wouldn't that be something? That would give those who slither in the dark a reason to follow him. He also bears a grudge against Byleth, which could come from both his heritage, there is history between the king and Sothis, so now that we have the threat that will force them to work together, how will it play out? Here's how I see it. The game will likely start with the failed invasion of Garreg Mach. Why will it start there? In the trailer we get footage of gameplay with the student era versions of the house leaders, so that's where the game will start. From there, we will fight through the war with your chosen class, until eventually those who slither in the dark will betray Edelgard, and take some of our army with them. This will give them the numbers for you to fight endless waves of. After all, this is a Samurai Warriors game, or a Musou game. At the same time, the purple-haired dude will start targeting Byleth. After that, with the help of your class leader, you will attempt to get the other classes to join you in this fight against this new threat. Is there any evidence to support any of this? Well, in the trailer you have sections dedicated to each of the house leaders, where they are fighting the armies of the other 2. So that means we will likely be able to select which house we are the teacher of. And based on that decision, that's who will play a major role in getting the other 2 leaders to set aside their differences. We also get these two scenes in the trailer. First, we have this scene where Claude shoots an arrow between Edelgard and Dimitri, who look like they're about to clash. This is likely a cutscene from the Golden Deer class selection where Claude is trying to stop them from fighting. Then we have a scene where it looks like Claude and Edelgard are about to go toe-to-toe before it cuts away. My prediction for that scene is that Dimitri will likely intervene, a scene which likely comes from the Blue Lion's route. And we know that the fifth party is targeting Byleth based on both the beginning of the trailer and the end, where Byleth is fighting the unknown figure, as well as the fact that if those who slither in the dark are involved, one of their major goals is the eradication of the Manichees, or whatever Sothis' people are called. And that's why I think this is a fifth path, and how I think they will go about getting to that path. How will it end? I don't know yet. Maybe I'll come back to that when we have more trailers. So if you liked this video, give it a like and subscribe, and leave your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching. Weegee out.